Hello, nice to see all of you here today. I suppose there are more people coming. It's a holiday, so let's wait for other people to join us. But today we are supposed to talk a little, and it's really a short talk, as the first part of a two-day talk. There'll be another one later about teaching qualifications and how they impact career somehow. Your the career development as a whole. And the idea here is really to show you those who are looking forward to start or to starting, sorry, as a teacher or to develop from teaching maybe to coordinating schools or teacher training. Which are the possible paths that you can somehow cover so that you can get to your objectives, right? So let's then have a look at it together and see how it can help you somehow, right? The idea is to first of all, I guess the idea is to understand that as a very long road. That's why I have this picture here. This is to show you that, and it never ends. In fact, so we are always going. You need to be always developing, investing on development somehow, and making sure that whatever you learn you can, in a way, find a way to bring back to who you are as a teacher or a coordinator or any other possible role that you have in the ELT world, right? So let's see. Let's understand it as a role, which one, the one which has no end specifically. So it goes on, and you have to keep on investing through your career. I think that's one thing for us to have in mind. And it somehow, I suppose that this picture somehow shows you a little bit of it. But then I think that one important thing for you to start, is that's the starting point for you should be thinking about who you are. uh, where you are right now in terms of teaching and learning as a teacher. So, what would you like to be? What position would you like to have? Where would you like to be in some time from here? That means maybe 1 year, maybe 6 months, maybe 5 years. So, this is something for you to have in mind. Um, for you to be able to do that, you need to use whatever tools you have for self assessment. So you have to assess yourself. So, okay, this is who I am right now in terms of teaching and learning. And these two things go together all the time for teachers, trainers, and coordinators. It doesn't matter the role you have, because there's no end to learning. We are always learning all the time, even if you're teaching and doing a teaching or oriented course, then you're still learning, and you have to think about yourself as a learner. And also, how are you going to assess all of these? How are you going to, which tools are you going to use for development? And that's especially important because it somehow shows you the things that you need to be doing next, so that you can move from A to B and then from B to C, and you have this gradual but constant kind of development in your career. So I think this is an important concept. Let's call that um, D for. Oops, sorry. Let's call that D for diagnostic, right? So it's more like your personal diagnostic of your professional environment and your professional career. What does this for teachers, for people working in the ELT and bilingual areas? What does that mean? Basically, language competence. So, and this is something for you to really have near when you start teaching English. It doesn't matter if it's ELT or bilingual courses. How much you're going to see that better, but how much you know the language and about the language. You also have to be careful in terms of your teaching competence. So, okay, there is a whole bunch of training that you have to be exposed to, and that depends a lot on the schools you are working for. But we also have the courses, the qualifications itself. This is the very beginning of a teaching qualification talk, which can be which is going to be completed in the future, in the near future. But the idea is to really plant the seeds, you see, show you that there is something that you should be worried about in terms of qualifying yourself beyond training. So what is it? What can I look for as a teacher or a coordinator, as a teacher trainer, to become a better professional, which is not only uh, um, the training that I receive from the school I work for, which is also valid. That's the third topic here, the training input. So you're going to be exposed to some training invariably. I mean, whenever you're working for schools and organizations like that. Um, but this is not the only thing you should be thinking about when you think about diagnostic moment of your career. And then also strategic thinking or critical thinking, that is to do with you being very critical of your own development. So it's okay, is this enough? Should I be going for more? Am I happy with what I have right now? Even after you take courses. And this is the generally this is the motion power of development. This is what makes development really go ahead. So that obviously you have to set measurable aims for yourself, but you always need to be critical of who you are professionally so that you can take a step ahead. Okay, then now if you know where you are, or at least you have an idea of where you are, and you use the diagnostic tools that you have to understand what's ahead. So there are other areas that you have to care about. I think that the first one, as I said before, is language training. And by language training, what I mean is not only language use as a teacher, because it really needs to be important, and that's very important. It needs to be clear. It needs to be correct. You need to be accurate in terms of using the language, but also how much you know about the language. Uh, and this goes with all types of teachers, those whose first language is English, those whose first language is some other language. The fact that you speak a language as a first language does not mean necessarily that you know about the language. So it's always important to make that very clear, right? Somebody who's got nice language training is this person who's able to use language accurately and who knows the structure of this language that he or she teaches. Uh, Also, how, after knowing all of this, I also have to think about the teaching environment. So, what is it that in my teaching environment has to do with the amount of language I use, the amount of language I know, and specifically the amount of language that my students will know or will need to be exposed to in that specific moment of their learning. Also, what kind of language is this? Is it more pedagogic, or does it have to do with course books? Does it have to do with real life use of language? So this is also something which is important for you to think about in terms of language training whenever obviously we are talking about teaching, right? The career development in teaching. Right. This, if I'm not going to take too long here because this is not the main purpose of these two talks that we'll have, but that's an important thing. I think that the most important thing is coming, right? Before that, we still have teacher training, which is, as I mentioned before, the teacher training sessions that you had in your schools, or sometimes like this one, you observe, you watch online, you in a way you bring to your career development plan from different schools, different, even if they're not the schools you are working for, but different organizations or institutes that offer those to you. And you don't need to specifically pay for that, although you might, right? But it's I think that there are lots of good teacher training sessions which are open to everyone, to every teacher, and they are also free. So you can make use of all those, and always stay connected to those institutes that offer this kind of session. Because if you're not working for one specific school, then you may profit from this a lot. Uh, then we also need, this verges on the attitude that teacher trainers, coordinators should develop in terms of teacher development. So always looking for more does not necessarily mean waiting for what the school can offer you, but going for more, really. I mean, trying to look for those communities or for the institutes or organizations that can offer that to you, even if they're not the ones you're working for. Not to mention that there are lots of tools nowadays on the internet. Some of them are absolutely free. And in the second session of this talk, I mean, the second day we have a second moment together, then I'll be sharing some of these with you. Some of these tools are free, some of them are paid, and so but there is a nice range of tools that you can be used for uh, teacher training specifically. It's not one of, I think that one of these two tools, and this is one of maybe the most important thing that I'm supposed to talk about today, is the teaching qualifications. So when you talk about them, when you think about teaching qualifications, you what you mean is the courses that are available to you and how you can move from A to B using those courses, right? Making use of all of this content. Um, when you think about those who will watch this video, if you are if you're not a teacher yet, but you'd like to become one, I think it is important for you to understand that yes, there is the language bit, But there is also the teaching bit. And maybe what you can do is to understand that this teaching bit has to do with the courses that you can take. I just listed two of them here. There are more, right? I think that the most important ones, the ones that are really recognized around the planet, are CELT and CERTISL. CELT is offered by Cambridge, and CERTISL is offered by I forgot right now, but I'm going to bring it back to you. Uh, but it's two important courses that you can take as a young teacher in the career right now. In terms of age, but in terms of a career, that's a very beginning of a career that you can have, and you can start these courses just by looking for them. Celta by Cambridge. Ah, right, Trinity, and and then Certisa by Trinity. They will give you the basics for teaching, and this is an important thing because not necessarily are teachers aware of all of the things that they have to do in order to teach minimally competently, right? And that has to do with lesson planning. Number one, it has to do with knowing our students better. Number three, number two, it has to do with knowing exactly the difference between what you're teaching in terms of systems and in terms of skills, and then knowing the skills and the systems more carefully, more deeply, so that you can arrange, you can design a lesson more efficiently, a lesson that is going to probably help you with your students and help your students with the content. So it's a very important thing for people who feel like becoming a teacher to do one of those courses. But these courses, which are generally seen as initial teacher training courses, they are not exactly only for those who intend to become a teacher. They can also they can also be taken by those teachers who have been teaching for a while, but they feel somehow that their practice needs updating, needs to be refreshed. So what you can do is to take a course like that, and this is something that I generally talk to these teachers when you're doing the interview for a CELTA course, for instance. I generally ask them to understand that this course, if they have been teaching for a while right now, this course is for them to sort of deconstruct and reconstruct what they know or they feel they know about teaching. And this is particularly difficult in the beginning, but it's very rewarding when the course comes to an end and these teachers, and this is from my personal experience, I can tell you, these teachers come to me and say, Andre, you have no idea how much it helped me. And I had the opportunity of changing some of the concepts of teaching that I had in my mind. And it was a great thing for me to do. So I feel more competent now. I feel more prepared now. I can design lessons better now. And I think this is this is the very objective of courses like CELT and CERTISL, because they give you the first kind of input, the first kind of information that you need to teach competently. And this is important to say because this is to do with the student basically. So I wouldn't exist. I generally say that I exist for the sake of the teachers who also exist for the sake of their students. So basically, what I'm doing is preparing teachers to deal with students better, to make sure that their development is more appropriate, more accurate, right? Well, apart from that, we, I mean, if we move along this sort of line here, we've got the SALTA and CERTISL as initial teacher training courses. And then there are others you can do right next, right? You can, with TKT, for instance, is a very nice group of certificates. There are six of them, in fact. Some of them are for teachers who are even also in the initial, steps of their career, like CELTA. Although they do not have teaching practice per se, so we do not have this with some of the certificates of modules 1, 2, and 3 of TKT. But we do have then the specialist modules of TKT, which are Clio and some others that are, I mean, Clio is more associated with bilingual learning instead of ELT, but they are there for you and they're there to help you. And they can always help you measure your knowledge of teaching. So after maybe doing CELTA, if you'd like to go for some more in terms of understanding where you are, because this is always something important, right? That's one possibility. Those who haven't started teaching yet but would like to start just to prepare for that, they can take TKT prep courses and do the exam so that they are more aware of the terminology, of the concepts, of the main pillars, which are probably going to be developed more when they do CELTA, right? Or any other initial teacher training course. So this is something else. Um, you at a certain point in time, you may need to think about the kind of teaching that you'll be doing. If it's more for the sake of teaching English as a final subject, or teaching maybe changing a little bit and teach a subject in English, like history or science. Those are things. They are all both work, and it's important to say that. But they require different kind of preparation qualification. So you may want to do or to go for certificates which are more for bilingual language teachers, like you're teaching in a school, K9 or K12 school, in which students have different subjects but in English, and this has been more and more popular these days. You may want to do one extension to certificates like CELT and CERTISL, which help you teach young learners, which is also a very strong trend nowadays. So this is also one possibility. You can maybe go for a master's. Maybe you'd like to do your master's in linguistics or education. I mean, this is something else, but then it depends a little bit on what we saw before, on the diagnostic, who you are, where you'd like to be. If you'd like to be more of a teacher trainer, then maybe you may flirt with masters or something like this. It's not here, but it's one of the most, I would say, recognized certificates. In fact, a diploma in around the world is Delta, which is really a very demanding one. And I'll talk briefly about Celta and Delta a little bit more so that you know what you're going for in case you decide to uh, do one of them, right? Um, so just then to go back to the idea, delta is that delta should be really maybe the last one, or you should wait a little bit before celta and delta because you need some time to use all of the knowledge that you acquired during a celta course in your classroom and become critical of your practice again and develop, maybe do something in between, and then after some time you can maybe go for delta, right? I think that's the way you should be looking at that, and there are some possibilities for you to do in between them. Now, if you think about the difference between celta and delta, I think that this is one of the most important things to talk about today, and maybe in our second meeting we can go deeper here, and then I'll show you more information which is specific to Celta and Delta. Celta is, as I said before, initial teacher training, and Delta is for teachers who are experienced already. So when you do the Celta, you're talking about a course of 120 hours and that's the workload for the course, and these 120 hours are generally divided into two components. One component which is more theoretical, the other one which is more practical. The theoretical component, I mean, obviously you're going to follow the course. There are different ways to deliver the course. There are courses which are online, and there are courses which are face to face, and there are blended versions of the course. There are different platforms to be used. There's some centers use one platform, some other centers another one. But essentially, you have to cover a certain number of units or contents that you need to be exposed to during a sort of course. It doesn't matter if it's online or face to face. And then you'll be writing 4 assignments, right? And this is more about the theoretical part of it. The practical part of it is based on teaching, and that's maybe I think that the teaching component, the practical components of both Celta and Delta are maybe the most interesting, the most rewarding ones, because that's effective when you bring all of the knowledge that you acquired along the course to the classes, to the lessons that you have to teach. And this goes little by little. So no one expects you to, for example, in a summer course, you probably teach around eight lessons. That might vary, but generally there are 8 lessons to be taught. And no tutor expects you to teach lesson 1 as well as you hopefully teach that lesson 8, because obviously by the beginning of the course you haven't seen much yet. So we understand all of this, and it's all about the curve, how well you develop from lesson 1 to the last lesson that you teach along the course. For all of them, when you do self-test, for all of them you'll be observed not only by the tutor but also by your peer teachers. And after the lessons are delivered, then the teachers, I mean, the teachers, your peer teachers, and the tutor will sit a little, or we'll meet online for a feedback session. So that's maybe the richest part of the whole thing, the feedback that you have with the tutor and your peer teachers. And this is it. This can be delivered over a month or over a semester, or even over a year, depending on the center and depending on your availability to do the course, right? And again, when you meet again, then there will be more about this. I'll maybe go to the nitty gritty of the whole course, and maybe what it means to plan your lessons and what it means to cover all of the units of the course, and to be exposed to all of the contents. When it comes to Delta, that's a whole different ballgame, right? Um, Delta is divided into 3 modules. Those who are watching right now and they already have Celta, they are going to profit from maybe knowing a little bit more about the modules of Delta, right? The first module is more theory again, so it's and you've got to you have of sources to read, lots of books to check, lots of information to try to organize. And after studying all of this, then what happens is you take a test, which is a 3-hour test divided into 2 parts, right? 2 tests of 1 hour and a half each. And this is all written. So there's no practical component here. And I'll talk more about that when we meet again. But the idea here is for people to really get prepared, which can happen with a school, with a center or not. There are lots of teachers who do their preparation by themselves, although it's generally richer to do that with someone else. And it's even richer when you're part of a group, because then you're going to profit not only from the tutor but also from your peer trainees on the course. And so this is something that is done before the test itself, and then you sit the test. Test is offered in June or December every year. This is module 1, and it's really, really difficult. So you need to really difficult in the sense that you need it calls for time for preparation. It's not difficult in the sense that it's not doable, no, but it's the fact that you really need to invest a lot of time and do a lot of reading a lot of studying so that you can get to the test well prepared for it. Um, there are some people who do that very fast. There are some people who do that over a month, for instance, when they go intensive, or and they just try and read everything they have to in that specific period of time. But this is not, personally speaking, this is not my favorite kind of design for the course. I generally like doing that over a semester, even over a month, because it gives you more time to absorb everything that you have to, and to see if you can transform all of the input into intake so that it's yours. You can really use that in the test when you do that, when you do the exam. So that's one module. The first module is the practical one. That's module 2, in which you have to teach 4 lessons. In fact, it's not only 4 lessons. There is something else. I mean, you've got a diagnostic lesson first, and then there is other lessons for you to be dealing with. I mean, not only the 4 ones, but the ones that you have to also observe. So there's a lot of work in terms of observing people have taught before who are teaching, and also plan your lessons to be taught. The ones which really you're going to be assessed are 4. They're called LSAs, and we're going to talk about that maybe deeper next time we meet. So these LSAs, they have to do with skills and systems again, and you'll be observed. In the first 3 of them, you're observed by a Delta trainer, somebody who will be with you when you teach, and will give you support in terms of lesson preparation and lesson design. I mean, you're going to discuss a lot with these tutor before you effectively deliver your lesson. And afterwards, after you do that, then you deliver the lesson, you're going to be observed real time. And the difference here between CELT and Delta is that the lessons that you deliver for Delta are generally with your own students. So you know these students, you know better, you know their profile better. Um, at the same time that with CELTA groups, what we have is a group of volunteer students, guest students, who get together for that specific course at CELTA level. So they are not your students, but at a Delta level, they are. So there is this difference here. Instead of teaching 8 lessons, which teachers do when they do CELTA, you teach 4 lessons, assessed lessons, right? Although I have to say that all of the work that you have to prepare, the written work, all of the preparation, lesson planning, essay writing for each of the lessons is really a lot more than it is for CELTA lessons, right? So this is especially challenging in terms of the teaching you have to do at Delta level. And then you do the 4 of them, and then next time we meet again, I mean, just saving here some information to share with you specifically about CELTA and Delta. Then I'll share what it means to pass module 2 or not, because this is seen as one of the most challenging ones by teachers and by trainees. And there is module 3, which has more to do with you understanding which area you'd like to develop more in, and then after choosing that area, you're going to try to be. I think that I think it. All right, I think we're back. Right? Okay. So I was saying that there is module 3, which is about a specialism. You choose something that you'd like to know more about, maybe teacher training, maybe young learners, we maybe CLIL lessons, and then you are going to dive. You're going to try and learn a lot more, as much as you can about that specific thing, and you're going to write an essay, which is a 4,500 word essay with all this information and in very specific sections, and you have to also design a course for that specific subject that you are learning about. So this is more like reading processing information, then making sure that you can transform that into a course. And then for this one, it's really nice to have somebody who can guide you, so that you know you're doing the right thing in terms of the type of text you're writing, the information you're including, uh, in a way that it's going to meet the assessment that we have for this specific course, this specific module. So I think that all of these they all of these certificates or diplomas, they do help you become a better teacher, because that's essentially what we want you to do, to look at yourself and see a better professional every time you do a course like this, or you have a training session. And there is always something for you to use in your professional life, in your practice. um, all right. And one important, I think they calls all of these calls for a certain kind of action. And one of the things that you can do is, and I like Journey to talk about that, as connectedness. Well, in a global world, so many things happening everywhere, so many sources of information everywhere. Not only do you have to screen all of this so that you know which ones are reliable, which ones are not, but you also need to make sure that you have the right channels to check. You've got the right blogs or podcasts or vlogs, or the information coming from reliable sources that you can be connected to, and also the people to follow, so that you know exactly who can be adding to your professional development. This C here goes with being connected, understanding what is going on in the ELT or bilingual teaching world, and seeing if there is anything that you have to go more for, if there is any discussion you have to follow closely, or if there is any other kind of attitude that you have to develop towards a certain area of your teaching. That also helps you compare what other people say or think and your own views on learning and teaching, which makes you more critical of your development. So, uh, I think that this is the idea of this talk today, which was really very brief. That is just to plant the seed on a holiday for our next talk. We are going to make it. We're going to spread the news soon about the date and time. But I think this is the first. It's the beginning. It's just the first moment, just to make you feel like going for more information, especially in terms of the courses that can help you develop. Although everything I have talked about today is very important, maybe we should develop a little bit more in terms of the courses that can help you. So for today, I really would like to thank you very much. Uh, do get in touch in case something was not clear. You'd like to ask one or sorry about that, one or two. If you'd like to ask one or two things about what I said, be my guest. All right. It was a pleasure being here with you, and I hope to see you soon. Bye bye.